Here's the problem of all these mortgage rule changes coming in the near future. It's basically a congratulations, liberals. You just kick-started prices going up in Canada again. With the 4 new mortgage rules coming in the near future, I'm going to summarize them for you and outline how it may affect the real estate market. Plus, I'm going to show you how someone may potentially use 3 of these 4 mortgage rule changes in a very nefarious way, I guess, because I was kind of thinking about how they intercommunicate with one another. So make sure to stay tuned. Now, if you're wondering how these new mortgage rule changes may affect you and you want to talk about your unique situation, you could do so by booking a call with me using the link that's on the screen. It's right here. It's www.chatwithzen.com. Link is also in the description below. Simply click on a date and a time that works best for you. And then when you see the prompt, fill in your name, email, mobile phone number, and a question you have for me, and then we'll chat then. Good day, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Prime Properties TO. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Zen, and I own and operate a RE/MAX in the Greater Toronto area where we help a lot of our clients buy, sell, and invest in real estate, on top of making awesome real estate content like this so that you guys are understanding what on earth is actually happening in the real estate market. And if you enjoy the content I'm putting out there, do me a solid and like and subscribe. So it's been like a whirlwind in the last few weeks with all these new mortgage rule changes that the Liberal government is just handing out like candy on Halloween, right? So I'm essentially going to summarize what has transpired to give you a sense of what's going on. Then I'm gonna give you an analogy of what essentially happened and why these mortgage rule changes are inherently going to cause a big pricing problem, meaning that it's going to cause too much demand, put too much money in the real estate market, and prices will go up. And then I'm gonna wrap off with essentially a case study of how someone may use all of the mortgage rule changes all at once and how beneficial it may look on paper, okay? So here's a quick summary of what's happened in the mortgage landscape with these 4 rules, and I'll also put the dates when they're gonna be implemented if you're trying to time it to use them, okay? So 1, you can essentially buy a home with CMHC insured mortgage for up to $1.5 million now. It was originally at $1 million, so it's up 50%. This is going to open up a lot of freehold homes open to people in the GTA for 10% down payment. So that's demand stimulus. Number 2, all CMHC mortgages now are able to get 30-year amortization, which is up from 25. And effectively, this gives a lot of buyers out there about 9 to 10% more buying power. Yeah, demand stimulus. Number 3, there's no more requalification on the stress test when you're getting a mortgage renewal. I actually quite like this one. It was a little bit long overdue. It means that you're not locked into your bank on a renewal anymore. And number 4, you could borrow up to 90% of the as improved value, as you can see over here, of a legal multiplex. This is the most recent one. And I think this one's gonna get a little bit wacky because it essentially looks like the government is gonna lend you money to build like a legal basement, garden suite, laneway suite, anything that's adding additional dwelling up to 4 units on your property. And from the language over here, it says you don't even have to be owner occupying it. It's just a close relative, whatever close relative means. And if you know any Asian culture, everybody is an uncle and an auntie anyway. So yeah, we're gonna talk about it a little bit more later in my example. We'll still need a little bit more of kind of like how the mechanism for this works, but oh boy, is that last one gonna be like a big time stimulus. So this is the problem and like my gripe with all these solutions, because it's not the first time this has happened. They're only solutions for like a very small subset of people, and it won't be for those who cannot utilize these programs or capitalize on any of these because they don't meet the criteria, right? So let me explain it to you in an analogy again. Adding to the story I used last week about how if the Toronto real estate market is a bar, and if the boys are the buyers and the girls are the sellers, currently we are in a bar in a very weird time where there's a lot more girls than there are guys, which is very, very rare, okay? However, what the Liberal government just did, who are essentially the bouncers of this said Toronto real estate bar, announced that, hey everybody, there are way too many girls in this bar. I need more boys in this bar pronto. Do you know what that means and what's going to happen? All of the boys are going to now line up in front of this Toronto real estate bar and try to get in and find themselves a girl because there's too many girls in this bar. But do you know what the problem of having like such a niche criteria of like mortgage qualifications is? Like it's the same thing as if like a bouncer at this bar is looking you up and down and deciding whether like you're cool enough to go in based on like your shoes, your attire, your face, or whatever it may be the case. A very esoteric, right? Essentially. And it's like if you were a guy lining up in Vegas, it's just kind of like that, right? So essentially the Canadian government or the bouncer of this bar, and what they did was allow for very, very small segment of the boys / buyers who were kind of on the brink of buying a property or meeting a girl. And with these new mortgage rule changes, it's essentially allowed them to do so. Effectively, that bouncer is letting a very small segment of the boys into the bar to find a girl. While it may not be a lot of boys coming in all at once, it's going to be a steady stream of boys coming in until there aren't many girls left in this bar, which is essentially what the, call it GTA real estate market is accustomed to. There are more boys / buyers than there are girls / sellers. Catch my drift? And you know what happens in this scenario where there are less girls than there are boys? Prices go up. Boys are willing to bid more for the dwindling amount of girls / properties that are available. And even the 2 out of 10s are going to get picked up. That's essentially it. The boys will be less picky over time because there's less girls. And that's essentially what's going to happen with all these mortgage rule changes. It's going to come very slowly, but it's going to allow more buyers in the market and absorb some of this, seller inventory. Now, one would argue that the Canadian government kind of like wants a sausage party right now, but that's just a joke for their time. But how long will it take for the boys to kind of like flood the bar? I don't know, right? Because there's a lot of factors going on right now, especially with like rates, geopolitical, inventory, etc. But it's clearly going to happen with these mortgage rule changes. Now, let me give you this example where someone could use 3 of the 4 new mortgage rule changes for the demand stimulus, right? So let's say the buyer goes to the market and decides to buy a bungalow that's a little bit over $1 million with a 10% down payment. That's about $130,000, give or take, after land transfer tax in Toronto. So this could be like, say, Scarborough. Then they apply to get a CMHC secondary unit loan against it for as improved value of $1.2 million. And then on that refinance, you get a capital out for $140,000 to build your legal basement. Then you can do the exact same thing and plop a garden suite down for maybe 300-ish if it's modular and depending on the servicing. And then maybe you can also do them both at the same time. And now what the buyer ends up is that they own a triplex at the end of all of this, like the whole rental process and servicing and everything, using only $130,000. And they have a ton of debt, a ton of leverage that's backed by the taxpayers of CMHC, and they're roughly looking at about $7,200 in mortgage cost each month alone before taxes. The question is, can a triplex rent for that much in Toronto? Yeah, it very much could, depending on the finishes. And how much income do you need to service this? I don't know, about like $320,000-ish, give or take, without rental offset from my calculation. Could a whole family go on title to service this? Yeah. Is this a higher incentive for mortgage fraud? Yeah. Are these numbers going to get better as rates come down? Yeah. Are CMHC mortgage rates lower because they're insured? Yeah. Do you see what I mean by like a lot of demand stimulus? I think all these rules are a little bit much, right? Now, let me put my tinfoil hat on and ask, why are we seeing this demand stimulus? Just why? Do the Liberals want to get re-elected and know they potentially pissed off the first-time homebuyer millennial voting demographic? Yeah, I think so, right? I'm right in that cusp. Did they really need to give Canadians this much mortgage credit? I don't think so. Most insiders ask for that CMHC lift from 1 million to 1.25, and they're like, hey, hold my beer, let's do 1.5 mil. They most definitely didn't need to go that high, in my opinion. And I personally really think that they know we have a supply problem coming down the pipeline, especially with condos having 0 sales right now, meaning in 2028, 2029, we'll have no inventory come online, like new stuff. I'm also positive they know that, building ground-based homes are very expensive right now. Did you know in Richmond Hill, a 1-car garage, 3-bedroom, 3-washroom townhouse, roughly about 1,700 square feet, starts at $1.3 million for new build? And they sold out earlier this year. It's ridiculous, right? Also, are the Liberals essentially throwing the supply problem onto the private sector by giving them money and asking them to build more units, which effectively means more risk on the homeowners, which means a potential bigger chance of things blowing up in the future? Absolutely. 100%. Is this the best solution instead of the much needed cleansing? Of course not. It's definitely not. It's obviously not. But the government won't let property prices drop. There'll be too much pain, so it'll be constantly kicking the can down the road. As you can see in this clip that our leader even said so himself.
But housing needs to retain its value. It's a huge part of people's potential for retirement and future and nest egg. So yes, we need to keep housing stable and valuable.
I know some of you watching this will be pissed at some of these changes. Those of you who are on the brink of buying a home will 100% love these changes because you can get into the market, you can get into the bar, you're going to be the boy who is able to find a girl at this bar. And you'll be very happy that the Liberals did this and you'll be grateful. But for people who are already in the bar, if you honestly want your home prices to continue going up, you should probably continue voting Liberal because it's actually good for housing appreciation. But I don't think it's good for Canada, period. And for everyone else left outside of the bar, I'm sorry. I really am. I can empathize with you. Don't hate the player, hate the game. This is unfortunately the game that the Canadian government is playing right now and making us play. So we either learn to play by the rules that they put in, or we just don't play and potentially be a boy outside forever alone with no property. I'm sorry. That's just how it is. Hopefully this gives you an idea of what's happening in the real estate market with a lot of these mortgage rules coming and how it may affect you. And if you don't want to be that boy left outside forever alone and want to see how you can get inside the bar and find a property, if that is ultimately what you want to do, you can book a call with me using the link that's on the screen. It's right here. It's www.chatwithzen.com, or the link is in the description below. Until next time, your move, your future. See ya! Now that you're done watching this one, how about this one? Or this one? You know what? Just watch them both.